Welcome to the Sparky Coach podcast. This platform was built by Sparkies for Sparkies. We simply exist to make business owners more profitable, or businesses more profitable and more predictable. So we want to work with people that work hard because we love working hard too, that work smart because you got to be on top of the business, people that are kind because no one likes a dickhead. Am I right? People who want results because that's what we're here for, right? And people who want to be part of a like-minded community. So if you're interested in hearing more about the platform, please reach out and enjoy the podcast. Sunday Skool, Crowy here, coming at you. This is going to be a bit of an interactive session. And by interactive, I mean not interactive at all, but probably better off on YouTube or Spotify. But listen in, we're going to be talking about what I call a small job travel fee. You might call it a service fee. Someone else might call it an administration fee, a certificate fee. You might call it a call-out fee. I don't know what you want to call it. Doesn't really matter what you call it. It's all doing the same thing. So it's super interesting to talk about, but essentially, you can do 5 1-hour jobs in a day. You can do 3 2-hour jobs, or you can do 1 8-hour job. It's typically what's going to happen. So who covers the gap? And it's so interesting. I look at numbers all the time. Love numbers. Really enjoy looking at them, and I'm always curious to see how it works. And a lot of times you hear throughout Instagram, you scroll through and it's like, get your rates right, and how do you know your break-even rates? And that's cool. And I do think that's an important part of it. Anyone who knows me will be like, yes, I believe that. But you can get your rate right and your month can close wrong. So your rate doesn't guarantee profit. And essentially, I've seen people come through on our Beastmator. We might be forecasting them at a low or negative labor rate and labor materials rate. And then when we close the month, they're doing really well. And I've seen the flip side, other people getting their rates right and coming to the end of the closing month and it's cooked. It's like, this actually sucks. You would have been better off not doing this. And what is the disconnect? What is the disconnect? Because you hear this stuff about never underprice a job again, and you charge out rates, and essentially, like, it's just noise. Like, it's just noise. There's a couple of 4 main focus points that you have to go off. 4 main focus points. For as long as you're selling labor materials, you have to understand your net profit and net profit per hour of a job you opened and closed this week. Very important. We call them a closed job. So it might be changing a sensor, putting 2 fans in for Betty, or putting 10 power points in, or a solar air conducted. You've signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours. And next thing is the understand net profit per hour of a open job. So of a stage job, of one that you haven't completed this week, it's ongoing. And if you are referencing cost plus jobs, I would class a cost plus job as a closed job because it should be invoiced Monday from the week before. So a lot of people wait to send invoices. I wouldn't wait. If you can send an invoice, you should. That should be your rule. Invoices should go out Monday. So today's Friday. I'm recording on a Friday. I don't know what day you're watching on, but it might be a Friday. But so come Monday PM, every invoice from this current week has been sent. And you could twist my arm, you could break my arm, you could bend my back to call that Tuesday PM, but after Tuesday PM, it's too late. Like there's too many variables that you have to have closed the week before, in my opinion. I think it's incredibly important. So you got to understand net profit of a closed job, net profit of an open job. You've got to understand labor efficiency, which is a big part of what we're going to go through today. Essentially, labor efficiency has no relevance at all to profitability. No relevance at all. It's paid versus allocated hours. Such a cool topic. And then the last one is the quality of hours. So quality of hours, a little bit subjective, but just picture this. Picture you turn up to site with 2 weapon apprentices and yourself, and you're a weapon. Just look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm a weapon. He's right. This guy's right. So you're a weapon and you've got all the stuff there. You know exactly where the tray's going. You got your rod cutters. You got your lasers. You got your scissor lift. You got all the gear. Everything's been chatted about. You know exactly the pathway. Bang, you're on. So you have 8 hours with 3 weapon humans, with knowing exactly what's going on with all the gear. Picture the other 8 hours you are there. and you have a peanut for an apprentice. So you're not happy with your apprentice. You got no materials, you got no laser, you got a hacksaw and a blunt pair of pliers, and you got to organize everything. You don't know what's going to happen here. You don't know what services are where, and you got 8 hours there. So both 8 hours, both chalk and cheese. 8 hours here, excellent, efficient, organized, productive, hopefully profitable if I've coded correctly. The other 8 hours, cooked, absolutely cooked. So you can have 8 hours and you can have 8 hours. So it's like what Lionel Hutz said. There's the truth and there's the truth. And it's anyone who's not a Simpsons person, like, what is this guy talking about? Anyway, we continue on. So interestingly enough, we're talking today about in and around labor efficiency and paid versus allocated hours. And I remember when I was going through a spreadsheet that wasn't quite as sexy as our spreadsheets in Sparky Coach, but I was going through and I was referencing, like, specifically, you'll find some stuff in your business is going well, some stuff is going okay, and some stuff is going terribly. Typically, when someone comes onto our program, you're going to see a bit of a rainbow, a couple of jobs in the red, a couple of jobs in the green, a couple of jobs in the orange. It's quite rare to get someone just a pure blood unicorn that is all green. It's quite rare. And if you have that, and people have had that, people come to us wanting to know their numbers, I'm like, you should be teaching us. Whatever you're doing, you should double down on this. This is amazing. And obviously we can improve that, but it's just that most people are getting something wrong. And for me, when I referenced Crow Electrical for myself, I was getting the small jobs very, very wrong. It's such an easy thing to do, whether you are cost plus or quoted or price book, doesn't really matter. It's the same concepts. I want everyone to sort of like, I think everyone's too much on a what's your hourly rate trend. And I think it's important to know break-even rates. And I'm not saying that, but I am saying every job has to be measured for net profit. So what's a net profit? But if you look at service work and you've got 5 1-hour jobs, they might be 40% net across those 5 jobs, but you paid an 8-hour day. So you've got 5 billable hours that are typically your usual rate, and you can change your rates. Obviously you can have a higher rate. You can either go for service work, high rate, low minutes, or low rate, high minutes. It's all roads lead to Rome. 15 times 6 is the same as 6 times 15. So it's 2 times 4 is the same as 4 times 8. It doesn't matter what way you do it, but too many people get caught up in, oh, I'm this much for service work, or I'm this much for project work, or I do this. And it's like, oh, I have that on a price book. And you can complicate it so much that you're just not looking at the actual facts. And it's such an interesting metric to look at. Like if you were $120 an hour, that's going to be our typical rate we're going to pick for today, because the math's quite easy, and we're just going to blow it out from there. So if you're $120 an hour, you are going to be basically, you're looking for 960 days. Let's call it $125 an hour, and you're at $800 a day. Now, sorry, if you're at $1,000 a day, so you're looking for $1,000 a day, close enough to it. If you get 5 of those hours in, right, at the, let's call it back to 120. My mind is going crazy. You get $600 that day. If you get 6 of those hours in, you get $720. If you get 8, you get $960. So let me rephrase that. If you're on an hourly rate, and you can reference, is that hourly rate charging direct to the customer, or is that hourly rate inserted into a price book, or is that how is that typically negotiated? Interesting thought. But you know, if you get 8 hours, you get $960. So if you're on the same job all day, you get $960. If you're on 5 1-hour jobs, you get $600. And if you're on 3 2-hour jobs, you get $720. So where is the gap there, and how do we reference that, and what's happening? And you can do multiple things. You can either charge more for the one you're at. You can either have like a minimum sort of, for 1 to 3 ceiling fans, we are this. For 4 to 6, we are this. For 1 to 10 downlights, here's our price book. For 10 to 20, we are here. And for 25 plus, we are here. There's multiple ways you can sort of skin the cat. But the interesting thing enough, if you peeled it back on an hourly rate sense, someone is being penalized, and it's probably you for not covering the time. because the travel between the jobs. Now, peel that back one more. If you're only checking net profit across your service jobs, you've missed the boat as well, because all the jobs you do might stack up and might be making sense, but across the day, you might only have 5 or 6 billable hours in an 8-hour day. And do you charge, you can, like I said, you can mitigate that, but you need to understand the concepts and bits and pieces. So what I did to sort of, what I did when I was measuring everything, and I was like, holy crap, like we are losing money on these hourly rate jobs that are the service stuff. And I really feel like you can't quote everything. It's just not possible to quote everything. There's so much labor involved in that. And also, if you've been in the business a while, specifically if you're doing industrial work or commercial work or high-end residential work, the type of clients you won't want to quote, the type of clients you might attract, they won't want to quote. They just want you to come and just do, just come and just do, just come and just do. And to some extent, that's much easier as long as you are aware of the ramifications and parameters around what sort of has to happen. So it's very, very interesting. But I will phrase the whole thing by saying this. Your rates can be correct and you can still be losing money. There's no point getting your rate correct. And even the break-even calculators you might download from Instagram or whatever, they're so cooked. The amount of people that come through our program and they think they understand break-even rates, and when you break, it's like a science. It's an actual, like it's a psycho level understanding of chucking things in there. It's a learnt skill. It's a learnt skill that you need. It's just because your calculator tells you something, what if the numbers you put in it were wrong? What if the numbers you put in were exaggerated? What if the numbers you put in might need some tweaking, adjusting, changing, chopping? Interesting. Anyway, getting into this. This is actually a really interesting one. I'm going to share my screen because I am, in fact, the Zoom Lord. So coming into here. All right. So this is what we're going to look at here. This one. So this is a calendar of February 2026. We're going to go through a couple of examples. So let's just say you work at the one job from 7 till, we used to call 7 till 3 an 8-hour day. So this might be, we're just going to call these amounts. If you're $120 an hour, there is $960 plus your margin on materials there collected. Now, such an interesting metric. If you're solar or aircon, you'd be collecting a lot of margin on materials. And let's just face the facts. 20% of a higher number is a higher number. So a lot of the solar guys can push a lower net profit, and aircon, lower net profit, but your net profit per hour is way higher because you're pushing 10 grand of materials over a 2-day job or a 3-day job, or a 1-day job sometimes with batteries. But electrically, to push 10 grand of materials, that's probably a week's worth of, that's probably like a month's worth of work for tradie apprentice. It could be 2 weeks worth of work, tradie apprentice. You're not typically pushing that much materials with electrical. So you've got to watch that and check your job overall. Now, coming into the next one, so let's say the first example, I got we're going cost plus here, but the same concept applies to quoted work. It's all the same. Now, you look at this one and I made $960. Now, let's just say I go, what's a good 2-hour job? Let's just say I go and get, I got my 2x bands and I got my 240. And then I have to travel, got to eat some lunch. And then I've got my 10 by GPOs. They're all back to back. So, and I got my 240. I know what you're thinking. I'd smash those 10 GPOs out in an hour, Crowy. And then I got my last job, which goes for 3 hours. And I've got, what else am I going to do? I got my sensor plus toggle plus spa circuit or something like that, whatever. And this is going to net me $360. But I've done some hit an hour of overtime here. So it's interesting to cross-reference and you go, okay, not all days are created equal. This one's got these 2 giant gaps there. So what's going to fill the gap? And coming into the next one, let's go here. Let's say I have real estate rental inspections or smoke detector or some kind of small job hour. So I got a small job netting me 120. I got typically I got 120 here. Gonna have some smoke in that point. I got my 120 here. Gonna have some more smoko. 120. Got to travel, might get stuck in traffic. And I got my 120. And then I go home early because I can't get a hold of the boss. Has that ever happened to you? It happens. So my biggest advice to that is you can have a what's called a small jobs not urgent list. So if you have a small jobs not urgent list stored somewhere on a G Drive, your job management system, Apple Notes, doesn't really matter. If you've got a small jobs not urgent list, you'll be able to if someone can't get a hold of you in the afternoon, they'll be able to log onto that list and they'll either be able to do and complete one of those jobs, or they'll be able to go back to your home base. This is the benefit, or one of the huge benefits, is having ongoing project work or ongoing work at that commercial industrial. I'm going to use the word builder a lot, but substitute builder for anyone that can give you repeat work. It's anyone that can give you repeat work. So it's really interesting to reference, like, once you get that home base job, you'll be able to make sure you're achieving what we call labor efficiency. So all the weeks have allocated hours out. And the benefit of a larger job is going to give you confidence to hire. And the benefit, it's going to give you that I've got workload in the future. Now I can sort of set my foundations up and sort of roll into it, as long as it's quoted properly, of course. It's the benefit of smaller stuff should be the profitability of the whole thing. The benefit of the larger stuff gives you confidence, and together you all match it up. So if you wanted some loose parameters around everything, and I say loose because what is a good margin on a job? The correct answer is more. Like, what's a good gross margin? More. What's a good net margin? More. Obviously, more while still retaining reputation, while still retaining client respect, and while still retaining a fair and reasonable pathway moving forward. So coming into sort of the net margin discussion, it's like, I don't think you want to go less than 15% on a large project. That's pretty scary times, right? So 15 to 25 would be a larger project. That's what you would be aiming for. 20 to 25 is your cost plus parameters, which if you're pushing 3 to 5 mil revenue and you only do cost plus work and you're making 20 to 25% net profit plus a market wage, I don't know anyone on earth who's going to be complaining about that. I just, like, forget about it. That's an awesome result, right? People want to blow up about certain types of work. It can all work. I've seen it all work. It's like playing a hand of Uno. You just have to play what you're dealt. If you're dealt a whole bunch of builders as in your friendship group with a whole bunch of cost plus work and some high-end residential, then you play that. If you're dealt, your brother-in-law's best mate owns a bunch of real estate, so you do all their rental inspection, you play that hand. You play whatever hand you're dealt, and there's going to be a lot of external factors that might blow that up. So you can kind of see this typically going across into here. Oh, sorry, I'll go backwards. So cost plus 20 and 25%. If you're doing, like, to say, rewire, solar, aircon, 20 to 35% should be your sort of go-to. Aircon, solar, you could actually go a little bit less and still perform well because of the net profit per hour metric I was talking about before. And service stuff should just be 25 to 45%. Like, if you want some loose parameters, that's a pretty good starting point. Every job's different because we're selling labor and materials. The labor is subjective, and the job, let's face it, a lot of the times it's different. A lot of things are quite similar or typical, but there's lots of differentiation between, like, 10 PowerPoints at Betty's house, 10 PowerPoints in a single skin Queenslander, 10 PowerPoints on a project. There's so many variables and moving parts. And that's why when you close the week, you got to be right on top of all this stuff, because there's so many moving parts. And just as hard as it is, it's hard to make money, but once you're making money, you also want to make sure you're not losing money. And when your business hits a certain size, then you want to make sure you're both making money and not losing money. And the two are coming as one together, as the Spice Girls song about, when two became one, or when two become one. So crossing into those loose parameters, and I think holistically over the month, if you're achieving, this is what we want to do at Sparky Coach, if you're achieving a market wage and a net profit between 20 and 35%, that is an absolute good time. So coming back into my screen, it's really interesting to go through. But you look at this, and I am just going to actually move that job out. So it's actually, it'll make everything a little bit easier if we finished on time here, and you get a good example. All right. So looking at this, and this day netted us 264 720. So I got a 720 day, I got a 960 day, a 720 day, and a 600 day. And if you're not careful, you can have more 600 days than 960 days. It's just, and I'm talking tradie, there's obviously so many variables here, but the concept remains pure across the whole thing. So what's going to fill this gap here? So you got this, and let's just call this the gap, right? This is red, and we're going to call it the gap. So typically, the purpose of a call out fee, service fee, or what I used to call a small job travel fee was to cover the gap. So it's basically like if I can't achieve, if I'm at my lower rate, I need to achieve minutes. If I'm at a higher rate, if they were at 150 and 150 and 150, then 150 times 6 is 900. I'm still a little bit less, but I'm close enough. So you can mitigate that by having a higher rate. But most people, it's easier just to stick to the one rate because everything gets too complicated if you have like a 6, 7, and 8 rate, and it's just really too hard to sort of measure against things. So it's super interesting to talk about. But you might have, if you're cost plus, you've got to fill that gap in. So you're going to charge what we call a small job travel fee. So I would charge time on site, 7 till 9. And then you would charge what we call a small job travel fee, which was applicable to all jobs under 8 hours. And the easiest explanation on that was you can achieve 5 1 hour jobs in a day, you can achieve 3 2 hour jobs, or you can achieve 1 8 hour job. So I shouldn't be punished because the job didn't go for 8 hours. It's quite actually easy to explain. Time on site, if you're cost plus, was typically very easy to communicate because I had a couple of jobs when we would leave at 9:30, and I thought the right thing to do was to charge them till 10 and, draw the travel together. So instead of having a gap, draw this job out and draw the bottom job up. And that sounds good and fair and reasonable until you get a phone call saying, oh, you guys left at 10, not 10:30, which is bound to happen from time to time. So I found this to be the most transparent way. And this is a cost plus example. Now, on a quoting example, the interesting thing you might find is instead of 2 fans at 240 and 10 GPOs at 240, you might have a 44% net profit, a 40% net profit, and a 36% net profit. And you look at the jobs and you're like, hey, this one performed. This was 36%. This one was 44%. This one was 50%. And that's all good and noble and awesome. But across the day, right? Across the day, if I factored in those gaps in the schedule, then every job went well, but the day didn't go so well. So if you approach it with curiosity, it's like, what's going to fill that gap in? Do I quote my service stuff at significantly higher? How can I get more effective? How can I schedule better? How can I go from suburb to suburb to suburb? We used to do a lot of beacon lighting work, and we would basically get given 30 to 50 warranty items. And back in the Southern Shire, aka God's country, my job and the admin's job was to go through and be like, let's just put them in the Miranda zone and the Caringbah zone and the Sutherland zone. So typically with that many jobs and beacon lighting is a city, so you had multiple of them. It's not like you had to travel. You could organize it so you got 10 jobs done in a day. And it was so interesting when you add your small job travel fee and your minimum charge onto that, you can do actually quite well from a low hourly rate because you're getting so many hours in. Your small job travel fee, no one has to know that you're not driving 45 minutes. If you can schedule better, and typically the larger companies can schedule better because they have more jobs on. So if you can get a zone, hey, we're going to go into zone 1 on Monday and zone 2 on Tuesday and zone 3 on Thursday, or you have like we do small job Monday or small job Friday. So put your small jobs together. Too many people, and I'm going to go through this in a second as I share my screen and navigate these multiple screens I've got. Too many people are going from one suburb here back to that same suburb on a Friday, back to that same suburb next Monday, and there's no care of the schedule. Now, on small jobs, the schedule becomes one of the most important things that you can do because you need to flow. If you're traveling 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you're probably still charging the same small job travel fee, administration fee, call out fee. The reason I like small job travel fee is because it does what it says and it says what it does. And it was very, very, very easy to explain. So labor efficiency comes into it. So how are you charging for the gap? and what's coming into it. Now, if I was on Simpro or ServiceMate or a job management system, I'd put that down as, I don't know what they call it, like let's call it a task. So I'd call it travel. So the last thing you want to do is go dragging jobs out, because it's not going to give you a pure read on the job. You want to know time on site, and then you want to know the travel gap so you can work out who cooked the schedule, how come it sucks, why aren't we making money. It's going to show you absolutely everything. So I feel like instead of drawing jobs out on the small stuff, it's your responsibility to fill that in via travel and call it a task, or whatever they call it across the 3 job management softwares, that are the major ones. Now, the other thing, let's just say I had a commercial client here, and I worked 7 till 10 there. And this was, let's just say these are full-blown repeat clients. And then I had an industrial client here, and I was on a cost plus relationship with both of them. Now, typically, anyone who gives you a lot of work is not going to want to see a small job travel fee like every single time. Now, what I would do in that case, I would literally just, I would just make that job a little bit longer and meet this job a little bit up. That didn't quite work probably, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. Meet that job there. So instead of drawing attention to the fact you get to charge a small job travel fee every single time, which I feel like I wouldn't want that if I was a business owner, but they would understand, hey, if your job goes for 3 hours, I've got to fill that cup somehow, right? And now the other thing you can do is treat it like an Uber service. Now, if you're at Splendor in the Grass in Byron Bay, you're typically going to pay more for an Uber for an emergency or a busy season than otherwise. Now, is your best client going to want to pay more during a busy season or emergency? Probably not. So you've got to play that with a bit of a grain of salt, but there's just multiple options on how you can sort of skin the cat. So if you're on like a cost plus arrangement between jobs, I would just make sure that came to 8. Now, if you're at the commercial job, and the commercial job over here, commercial job, basically the industrial job said, we need you over here now, get over here, which typically happens in an in an emergency setting in a service-based industry. You're going to want to extend, you're going to want to sort of charge the industrial person more. It's not the commercial person's fault. Now, this brings up so many questions and so much subjectivity and so many gray areas. Too many times talking about labor efficiency, you see people going on a project job from 7 till 9:30, and this might be a quoted project. And then we come into quoted project number 2, and then we see them come into quoted number 3. This is a perp or quoted, you know what I'm saying? Quoted, let's change that back. So too many people, especially when they first come in the program and you start looking at this stuff, they bounce from job to job to job like Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. And it's like you're not treating that quoted job with respect. So when you step back and look at the stuff you're doing and you're bouncing from job to job to job to job to job, it kind of shows you, it's like almost a hiring indicator. Now, don't forget, the most important job is the one you're at. So if there is 8 hours worth of work to do there, you need to stay there. Coming back to the small job travel fee, if you came to fit off that wall light behind me and another wall light and then a PowerPoint and then a light switch upstairs, I shouldn't get charged 4 small job travel fees because you were disorganized. So you've got to treat it with a bit of respect. You know, basically you're looking after the customers. If you're looking after the customer's best interests, you'll do really well in business. That's the essential rule of business. If you have their needs first and you're like, we're going to provide the best service, yeah, we're going to make money, of course, but we're going to provide the best product and deliver this, that's incredibly important to do. But like, so if you're just coming back 3 or 4 times and charging me a small job travel fee, you can probably expect some problems. And so it puts emphasis when you reflect on the schedule. It's the most important job as the one you're at. I see too many people bouncing around, or spend 2 hours here, or wait to order those materials. If you can go and get the materials and come back and just do it, your calendar is going to thank you. Your cash flow is going to thank you. Your admin is going to thank you. Future you is going to thank you. Your client's going to thank you. All of the above. Everyone's happy with that. The staff are going to thank you. You're not going to have stuff in the van for 3 weeks' time. You're not going to have to queue up jobs in your job management system and I'll invoice that in 45 days when I go back there and fit off that last weatherproof PowerPoint. So, and coming back to when you're sending invoices every single week on a Monday at the latest from the week before, it actually puts a lot of pressure on you getting to jobs and finishing jobs, you treating jobs, because you're treating jobs well. Because if you look at the schedule that I was fleshing out before, and it's really disorganized, it's very hard to charge people for disorganized work or work that's not finished or work that could have just been finished or work that's unproductive or work that had two apprentices standing there while they waited for you to do something. So it puts so much unbelievable emphasis on like and pressure on the schedule and that ethos that the most important job is the one you're at. We used to have a rule at Rough In that you would just stay till it finished. You would go and you'd fit off you'd rough in, you'd fit the board off if you could. You fit all the external grills, you put PowerPoints out for things, you would just finish it properly, wrap a bow around it. So the person cutting it out just has to look at a map, cut, everything's done. It's so easy. So try and do the right thing the first time, and then you'll never come unstuck. But it's super interesting to talk about, and coming from Cronulla originally, or South Sydney and traveling through Sydney a lot, the typical travel time between jobs is 30 to 45 minutes. So across the year, you probably say 45 minutes. By the time you factor in some callbacks, I left my torch in that roof, I had to start late here, there was a gap in the schedule here, I had to finish early here at that point. By the time you factor in all that kind of stuff, it's probably 45 minutes. So something needs to cover that 45-minute travel every single time. If you can schedule a little bit better than that, good for you. That is good for you. You're going to need to stack the dollars up on these jobs because they take so much administration. There's so much back and forth. If something goes wrong on $1,000 job, it's probably going to cost you $1,000. If you're fitting off 2 pendant lights above an island bench, and someone drops something and cracks a bench, that's going to cost you $4,000 to $6,000 for a $2,000 job you're making $600 on. So it's so interesting to talk about. And I think the biggest metric I want people to see is the net profit per hour metric. You might push 30 to 50% net profit across a service job. The net profit per hour with minimal materials, it might be $30 to $45 net per hour. You might push a solar or aircon job across 2 days with 2 tradies and 2 apprentice teams. That might be $150, $180 net profit per hour because of the large materials move over a low amount. And the easiest way to explain that, like I said before, 20% of a higher number is a high number. So it's really interesting. I just feel like whatever you're doing, someone's charging a travel fee somehow. I called it a small job travel fee. It was the most transparent. If you're quoting, you've got to sort of watch net profit versus labor efficiency. If you are doing a whole bunch of repeat work, you've got to watch the draw out of that. If you are bouncing around from place to place and space to space, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. Try and just tidy it up. Maybe one additional phone call to, it's like what really lets someone down more? Does being a day or two late, if it's not an emergency, let someone down? Or just going there for 2 hours and back for an hour, then back for 3 hours, let them down more? And I think you'll find when you're there, just make it the most important job, just get it done. Your business will thank you. You'll get a whole bunch of stuff out of your head and your staff will thank you and you'll be super stoked. So my reflection on this is find out what's not going so well in your business and then correct it. Is it a small job travel fee? Is it a call out fee? Is it a service fee? Is it increasing the net profit across your small jobs? What is it? Is it charging a higher amount for 0 to 5 downlights and then for everyone after it's a discounted amount? Find your rhyme, find your rhythm, and rip and tear into the future. This has been a small job travel fee education session. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace out. See you guys soon. That's a wrap on another podcast. Whatever you're doing, don't be too busy to stop and check if you're making money. And above all else, you know the rules, be kind. See you soon.